Hello, everybody. My name is Happy, and I'd like to welcome you all to my history reaction channel. Today, we're going to be ruining Russian history with bad translations, with a little help from StarvHarv. As always, I will include a link to the original content in the description down below. Please consider heading over to StarvHarv's channel and showing him some appreciation for the hard work he puts into these videos. I know on the surface it seems like it would be easy, and what he typically does is run Wikipedia timelines, specific events or places, through a series of translations, and then back to English so that we kind of get uh, some gibberish, basically. And it's kind of fun to try to understand what the original event might have been. So, with that said, I have seen several of StarvHarv's videos both directly and through other history reactors. I have never seen this one either directly or through another history reactor. This is the history of Russia. I'm not surprised not a lot of people are out there trying to tackle this one, because I'm sure it's going to be a nightmare. So, I thought I'd try it myself. My Russian videos are among the most popular I do on this channel. They were the most popular by far up until I started doing Napoleon. Now Napoleon and Russia are at war again. Not surprising there. We've yet to see who will come out on top, but I suspect this time around it'll probably be Napoleon, but you never know. Anyway, I will do my best here. I suspect I'll do above average compared to the casual history buff on, actually probably well above average on the early Russian history, say from the beginning all the way up to the, say, 17th century. After that, I'm going to start petering out, and I'll probably finish somewhere around average. Most of what I know about Russian history tends to be the pre-Soviet period, and especially, like I said, up until the 17th century. Trying to learn it all, but I kind of started right from the beginning and working my way up. So, let's see how we do. Typically, when I edit these videos, I remove any pauses on my part that are more than a second and a half. I'll be doing that here as well. Based on what I've seen from other StarvHarv videos and how tricky it can be to figure out what some of these are, I expect I'm going to have a lot of pauses where I'm just doing the type thing. And so you'll probably see a lot of editing. That's going to be why. So don't be surprised if you see a lot of skipping in the video. But with that warning out of the way, let's just get into this. I have a feeling I'm going to have a headache by the time it's finished.
I translated Wikipedia's timeline of Russian history through languages with terrible translation quality. This was the result.
Right.
In 862, the Nordic test began.
Okay, that's an easy one. So somewhere around 862, that is going to be around the time that the Varangians are invited into the Slavic lands. So according to the primary chronicle, also known as the Tale of Bygone Years, the Slavs, in what we think of now as Russia, were kind of fighting among themselves. They were getting tired of it. So they invite a group of people called the Rus, who were Varangian. Now, what is a Varangian? Well, according to the primary chronicle, they are a group of people that include the Angles and the Swedes, the Saxons and the Goths and the Visigoths. So there's a lot of times they'll say that the Rus were Scandinavian or Nordic. We really don't know for sure. Archaeological evidence suggests that it was probably Nordic, or at the very least we find evidence of a strong Nordic presence up by Lake Ladoga in the far north near where St. Petersburg is now, or more specifically where the city of Novgorod, Lord Novgorod the Great, is at, just a little bit south of Ladoga. We know there was a Nordic presence up there. So, but we're really not sure who the Rus were. They could have been Germanic, and there were periods in Russian history where the Russians, for example, during the reign of Catherine Great, who was Prussian, so she was of Germanic heritage. During her reign, a lot of historians suddenly figured out that the Varangians were probably Germanic tribes. It kind of bounces back and forth throughout history. No one's 100% sure, but yeah, I think the evidence kind of suggests that it was a Nordic Scandinavian presence. We'll probably never know 100% for sure how much of this is the tale of bygone years is factual and how much of it is just oral tradition that may have seeds of truth and a lot of mythology mixed together.
907, Russia is a combination of war corruption.
Okay.
And then the Russ Bean War.
Oh, okay. So what we're going to be talking about there is founder of what we're going to call Kievan Rus, which is coming up real soon, you have Rurik, who is the leader of the Rus, and his kin. They settle up by Lake Ladoga. Rurik builds and sets up at Novgorod. One of his kinsmen, Oleg, will soon after that travel south and end up setting up his base at what is now Kiev in Ukraine. And Oleg is therefore going to be kind of the founder of the Kievan Rus state. Rurik has a son, Igor. Igor and Oleg are the two that we had the most evidence actually existed. We're not so sure about Rurik. He may or may not be he's kind of a semi-legendary character. We don't know if he existed or not, but Oleg we're pretty sure did, and Rurik, or whoever he was, his son, Igor, we're pretty sure. But what they're talking about here is Oleg goes down and settles in Kiev. Why does he do that? Because he's interested in trade with the Byzantine Empire, with Constantinople. That's a good place to set up camp in Slavic lands where you can reasonably trade with Constantinople. And he actually has several conflicts with the Byzantine Empire. And I suspect this war and the Russian Bean War is probably the Russian-Byzantine War. That's my guess, anyway. It'd be around this time. There's actually, I think, 2 waves of them during the lifetime of Oleg. He fights them, they come to peace, and then he fights them again later.
12, he died. Like,
That's Oleg, I'm
went
sure.
to the game.
That's got to be Oleg, and I'm guessing the boy is probably Igor, son of Rurik.
988, a few days ago, a group of people were killed on the streets of the capital city.
Okay, 988. 988 is right around the time that Prince Vladimir, was it Vladimir? I think it was Vladimir. Pretty sure it was Vladimir. Adopts the Orthodox Christianity faith and orders all of the Kievan Rus to adopt it as well. He orders that everybody be baptized as Orthodox Christians, and he orders that all the pagan icons and statues and temples be gathered and destroyed. I kind of wonder if maybe the destruction of the pagan idols might be what this is about. I'm just not really sure. I know that's got to be the right year, but I'm not sure. But I know that's just all I can think of from that time. They destroy the idols. I don't know if they actually killed people or not during this whole conversion thing. But gotta be that time.
He died, and Sibori said that W played has 3 blind sons. 1016, my castle was a military weapon and forced him to go to Poland. 1018, Polish studies. Topoli leads the Polish army in Los Angeles.
Okay, so these 2 events, this one and the one from before, I think 1016, I think he said. Yeah, leads the Polish army to Los Angeles. Forced him to go to Poland. Okay, this one is Yaropolk versus, I think, Yaroslav? I think it was Yaroslav. Basically, it's 2 brothers that are fighting over the title of Grand Prince. Sviatopolk forces his brother, Yaroslav, I think it was his brother anyway, out. Yaroslav flees to Poland.
Military weapon.
So far, so good. Yeah, in fact, I think that 3 blind. Sometimes when he does these translations, some of the dates cross over to adjacent things on the timeline. 3 blind. I wonder if that's referring because
blind sons. 1016. My castle.
Sviatopol kills 3 of his brothers. His youngest brother is the one that goes to Poland.
Was a military weapon and forced him to go to Poland.
Right.
1018.
And then
Polish studies.
Yes.
So Polly leads the Polish army.
Yaroslav, or whatever the brother's name. I think it was a Yaroslav. Where it comes back, leading Polish forces to reclaim the title of the Grand Prince.
In Los Angeles.
Not in Los Angeles, so.
I'll refuse.
No
1068,
idea.
Isabel against the implementation of general war and forced Poland. Peace came back to the bone.
Not sure.
1113.
There's going to be a lot of Russo-Polish wars in this. Several Russo-Swedish wars. Several Russo-Turkish wars. Sometimes they'll be called the Russian-Polish wars or the Swedish-Russian war. I'm not going to try to remember the exact order and the names of each of them. I'm probably just going to call them all the Polish War, the Swedish War, unless it's got a specific name like the Great Northern War, just to keep from confusing myself and everybody else.
The capital is dead.
Okay.
Son. Why is the narrator like a cowboy? 1157,
No idea.
Drink and die.
Drink and die. Should know that one. Yuri. That is the death of Yuri, the founder of Moscow. The guy that Moscow itself recognizes as their founder. He dies while inebriated, and the rumors were that he was poisoned. And that's about the right time for that. So I think that's what we're talking about there.
1169, Andrei Bogorevsky is the oldest son of Yuri Dovsky, who attacked and distributed his Russian wife from Andrei, entered Kiev, and received a gift from Prince Kirill.
So this is the Yuri that leaves Kiev and moves basically the capital, at least under his reign, to the Principality of Vladimir.
1227, you must give your name. Print. 1236, Alexander Novsky was invited to protect the southwestern region from the spread of Novgorod and Sweden.
This is Alexander Nevsky, and this is when he is asked to come to the aid of Pskov, which Nevsky was set up. He was originally a prince of, did I say he was the Prince of Vladimir, I believe, or his father was Prince of Vladimir. Nevsky is later moved, Alexander is later moved to Novgorod as the Prince of Novgorod. He is asked to come help Pskov, which is southwest of Novgorod, more or less, protect them from the Northern Crusaders, which would have been the Livonian Order, which was at that time under the Teutonic Knights, forces from what's now Estonia. Back then, they would have been Livonian primarily, but also some forces from other Germanic states, as well as, I believe, some from Sweden. So I'm pretty sure that's what we're talking about here. This is the, for those of you who don't know about the Northern Crusades, there was a period where Crusaders went up to what was then Prussia, and other states as well, Prussia, Pomerania, Livonia, and some other states like that, and started converting the pagans to Catholicism. And they kept advancing further and further north and east until they bumped up against the Orthodox Christians. And at that point, they said, well, we've subdued all the pagans. Let's bring the Orthodox back under the true faith of Catholicism. So they started picking fights with the Orthodox. And that's what you have going on here. This is the famous battle on the ice, the Battle of Lake Peipus also, or Peipus, however you want to pronounce that, or Chud if you're Russian, it's like Chud.
2 terrible diseases there. 1237, the Hungarian state kills Czechs and citizens.
Oh, that's the Hungarian state, the Huns. That's the Mongolian invasion, what that is.
That's the Mongolians,
yes.
But they're now the Hungarians.
And they don't like Czechs. They take cash only. Just don't mess with these guys.
And they hate Czechs, but not the people. 1263, Nevsky is dead.
Alexander Nevsky dies.
Sorry, Nevsky is the dead.
Oh, he is the
and
dead.
The application is divided into young men among the family.
Okay, so this was pretty common during this period. You did not have, when you died, your holdings were divided equally among your sons. So that's one reason why we see this growing number of principalities in the area that's going to become Russia. Let's talk about that real quick because we're going to get kind of confused here. So from the founding of the Rus, the arrival of the Rus, to put it that way, and their establishment of themselves in Kiev, we tend to refer to these people in this region as the Kievan Rus. They would not have thought of themselves as that, but that's what we refer to them. Now, over time, Kiev is going to start, it has an ascension where it gets more and more powerful, and it starts going into decline. That decline is going to be terminal once the Mongols arrive. Mongols are going to totally destroy Kiev, and that is going to blaze the way for other principalities to start shining. But even before that, Kiev is in decline. We already saw Yuri, for example, move the capital to Vladimir at one point, and some of the others are not czars, but grand princes go from there as well. So once there's a lot of debate over when the Kievan Rus period ends. It's pretty well dead by the time the Mongols arrive, and that's the kind of the terminal date that pretty much everybody agrees that after that it's no longer the Kievan Rus. But some people will put the end of the Kievan Rus before that, potentially even when Yuri relocates to Vladimir. But after that, you get what's called the appanage period, which is where you see a lot of this division going on, more and more principalities sprouting up, some of them succeeding, some of them failing. They're all struggling to survive under the Tatar yoke, which is the rulership of the Mongols.
1317, Prince Yuri married Germany. Uzbekistan left and appointed Yuri. Of course, Germany. The greatest prince, Uzbek Khan, who deserves the honor of stealing Osbek Khan.
This is the different Yuri. There are going to be a lot of Yuris in it. There's going to be a lot of Vasilis in this. There's going to be a lot of Ivans. That's why you'll see me struggling with names. It's because there's so many repeats. So we're talking about Yuri here, who marries the sister of Uzbek Khan. So this kind of brings the heritage of the Mongol elite into the Russian noble bloodline.
Yuri is
It's not the only time that happened, but this one's a notable one. Uzbek Khan is pretty prominent.
Quiet man whose brother was Ivan Kreki.
Got it.
Huge Yuri lore there.
All right.
1425, Nicholas Dai II, Vaz, son, grandfather of Moscow Sophia, wife, Lily Dmitrii, and Tron is also known.
No idea about the Tron stuff, but I'm pretty sure I know what we're talking about here. And I am going to butcher this. I'm just warning everybody in advance. This is one of those periods of Russian history that gives headaches. Okay, so what we're talking about is the beginning of the Muscovite Civil War. So we had that Yuri earlier that I talked about that died while inebriated drinking and was believed to have been poisoned. Well, he considered the founder of Moscow. When the Mongols arrive, they're going to be most of the principalities are going to resist. Moscow is not. Neither is Novgorod under Alexander Nevsky. So Novgorod and Moscow are going to grow in power and prestige, while almost all the other principalities are getting basically stomped into the ground by the Mongols. Because if you just invite the Mongols in and say, hey, we'll pay your tribute, just spare us, they will, and they'll probably make you tax collectors and tribute collectors for them. They could be quite generous if you just kowtowed to them, basically. If you tried to resist, at best case, you're going to get bloodied pretty bad. Worst case, you can get wiped off the planet. That's what happens to a lot of these principalities. That's what happens to Kiev. Moscow comes out of this doing really well. But we're going to have right here a civil war in Moscow, in Muscovite, which is the principality that's forming around Moscow. So let's go back to what he said here. Yes. So we're talking about
1425, Nicholas Die II, Vaz, son.
That's Vasily. It's got to be Vasily. There is a grand prince named Vasily. He dies. His son is Vasily II. One of his sons. Vasily II is going to be important. Vasily II had a brother, another Yuri. The two of them, again, we're going to have a brother feud. Vasily II versus his younger brother, Yuri.
Grandfather of Moscow.
When Vasily II when Vasily I dies, Vasily II is still a little too young, so his mother, Sophia, is his regent initially.
Sophia, wife, Lily Dmitriads, and Tron is also known.
I'm sure that's where we're going with this.
The Columbus Boys Moscow movement should return to Moscow without a mission and go to exile.
This has got to do with the boyars being dispersed during this civil war. I'm sure that's what that is.
1434, Mountain Civil War, the second wave in
Still
Asia.
going on in Muscovite Civil War.
President Yuri Dom killed the rest of the people.
Okay, so Vasily II in charge. Yuri manages to capture Moscow from Vasily II. Vasily II is forced to retreat and leave. So we have basically successfully staged a coup and taken over. A military coup, basically.
Civil War, Moscow judge again.
Right.
Zhavov died, son of the largest volleyball.
No idea on that.
1435, Lily Dmitrii II, a woman with cream and blinds, back to the bone of the Prime Minister.
Every time they say bone, I think they're saying throne. I think for some reason, one of these languages they're translating into and out of is turning throne to bone. We've seen that a couple times. Every time they seem to be talking about somebody gaining a throne or losing the throne. What we're talking about here, Dmitrii. Dmitrii is the son of Yuri. So, let's recap. Vasily II is now the Grand Prince after his regency with his mother, Sophia. His brother Yuri comes in, takes over, kicks Vasily II out. Yuri has a son named Dmitrii. Dmitrii goes and joins his uncle, Vasily II, and the two of them team up to take the throne back for Vasily II. Back to the bone. I'm sure that's back to the throne. Second time we've seen bone, the second time that my brain has gone to throne based on the context.
1462, the toilet's dead again.
No idea.
1463, in Moscow, the Big Banger in the Netherlands was photographed.
No idea.
1478, he works with the Republic of Moscow. The last daughter was recorded in Moscow.
Okay, there is no Republic of Moscow. 1478, though, I think that is when Republic of Novgorod is defeated by Muscovite. So that might be what we're talking about here, but I can't swear to that. The timing's about right. I'm not always great on absolute dates, but I'm pretty good at relative dates and placing things roughly where they go. I'm pretty sure that's about where we are, is when Ivan the Great, I think it was the Great, third, not the fourth, the terrible, but Ivan the Great conquers the Republic of Novgorod. I think that's what's happening here.
1538, He died. Contact us.
No clue.
1561. Visualize the scene. Hear
I'm visualizing
the
it.
voices. 1590, Russian War.
Okay, so we just went right through the period of Ivan the Terrible without discussing anything that's happening under him, other than he's at war right now in Livonia, and he's getting his butt kicked. So Ivan the Terrible, he has a war with Turkish forces down by the Crimea. He takes Astrakhan, among other things, down there. And then he heads up north to Livonia, and he basically gets in trouble with Sweden and a couple of the other Baltic states. So I'm pretty sure that's what we're talking about here, is the kind of the tail end of that.
Government of Vietnam, Sweden, got rid of Russia. It's the end of Russian history, just there. 1591, knife on the neck. Killer Sogov, a successful agent.
I know what this is.
Recent studies have begun to predict Dmitrii's theoretical death.
Theoretical indeed. If you know anything about what happened right after 1591, definitely theoretical death. So this is the death of Ivan's son Dmitrii. So, and this is going to also be setting up the stage for what's called the Dmitriad. So, Dmitrii is one of Ivan the Terrible's sons. He is sent away from Moscow to an appanage, some kind of a noble estate somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where. And there he dies in a tragic accident where he stabs himself in the neck. Now, the official story is that he had an epileptic. He was playing with a knife and had an epileptic fit and slit his own throat, basically. Stabbed himself in the neck. However, because of the political situation at this time, there were a lot of allegations that he was murdered. So let's talk about the political situation at this time. Ivan the Terrible has several sons. One of them, the first Dmitrii that he has. I think he has two sons named Dmitrii. The first one dies in infancy. The second one dies stabbing himself in the neck. He also has a son, I think, was it Vasily? It's Vasily, I could be wrong about that, who is his presumptive heir. Son's wife is not dressing appropriately for a woman in her condition. She was pregnant. Ivan berates her. Son intervenes with his father. His father strikes son with his staff, ends up killing him. Now, sometimes you'll see that portrayed as an act of cold-blooded murder. It was not. Pretty much all the references from this time, anyway, make it pretty clear that it was a heat of the moment, crime of passion, if you want to put it that way. It was not a premeditated murder. It was not cold-blooded in the sense that he wanted to kill his son. Got angry at his son, he struck him and ended up killing him. You ever seen that famous painting of Ivan on the ground cradling his first-hand account of the period that he was crying, "What have I done? What have I done?" Very unintentional. It doesn't excuse him, that kind of a temper tantrum, but I just want to make it clear that we're not talking about somebody who just went in there and decided to kill his son. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. I do ramble a lot. Where I'm going with this is kills off his heir. He's got two more sons that can inherit the throne, Dmitrii and Theodore. Theodore is not particularly healthy, and he's considered somewhat dim-witted, not too terribly bright, not really well-suited for leadership. So Dmitrii, on paper, seems like the better choice for the next Tsar. Technically wouldn't have been in the succession because it was like the son of Ivan's sixth or seventh wife. Ivan was trying to outdo Henry VIII in a lot of ways when it came to marriages. But Russian faith did not allow you to marry that many times. So after I believe the third rest of them were basically considered illegitimate. So you could make the argument that Dmitrii never would have been in succession in the first place, but it doesn't really matter. Because what happened is Dmitrii dies, Theodore takes the throne. Theodore marries the sister of a boyar named Boris Godunov. Boris is an ambitious boyar, really good at political maneuvering. He's really good at administration. But there's a problem here. Theodore's not too smart, so Boris is basically running the country behind Theodore's back. Well, he's actually kind of an advisor, so it's not really behind the back. But no, everybody knows that Boris is basically running the country. And when Dmitrii dies, a lot of the people, both some of the boyars and a lot of the common people, believe that Boris Godunov had Dmitrii assassinated, clear his own path to the throne, because he's already basically in charge. Theodore's not going to last long. He's just not. And then there won't be any other legitimate heirs. This guy's running the country already, so he can make the power play. So there's this suspicion, and a lot of later stories. For example, Alexander Pushkin, famous poet, wrote a play, Boris Godunov, that portrayed him as assassinating Dmitrii. But what they're talking about here, recent studies have begun to protect Dmitrii's theoretical death. Most historians, not all, but the general consensus is that he probably did die accidentally. There's no really telling evidence that he was assassinated, let alone by Boris Godunov. And like I said earlier, Boris probably could have taken the throne anyway because Dmitrii's claim was questionable at best, because Ivan's marriage to his mother was questionable at best. Anyway, to continue on, but we do need to talk about the Dmitriad, but I think we'll probably talk about it in this timeline.
And then
he's not dead yet.
Every child has problems.
1598 is the death of Theodore. That means end of the Rurik line. So from the founding of Kievan Rus up until this time, to about 600 years, single dynasty has been in charge. That dynasty just died with Theodore. Now what do we do? Because rulership of Russia in the Grand Prince and now in the Tsar, because Ivan the Terrible is the first true person who's crowned the Tsar, that's all tied up with the idea of the divine right to rule, that God has blessed this line. This is the line he intended to rule. So what happens now? There is no real rules for what's going to happen next. Well, Boris Godunov is going to take over.
1609, we were married in 1962. Then Samsk solved it.
No idea.
What do you mean solved? 1610, Paul has 7,000 killers.
Okay, so we're skipping over the Dmitriad, but I know what this is, and it's kind of tied to that. So let's talk about the Dmitri. So Dmitrii dies, stabs himself in the neck, or he's killed by Boris Godunov. Doesn't matter. He's dead. Or is he? Theoretical death, remember? Well, after Boris Godunov takes the throne, based on his dubious claim that he's married to Theodore's, or he's the brother of Theodore's wife, there's a famine in 1601 to 1603. Massive famine, one of the worst in Russia's history, which is saying a lot. This famine is causing widespread death across the country. The population is becoming highly mobile. A lot of the lesser landholders are losing control of their land. A lot of people, some of the serfs, and even some of the lesser landowners are fleeing either to the big cities like Moscow or down south to the lands of the Cossacks. And what's going to end up happening is a man claiming to be Dmitrii, son of Ivan, one that died stabbing himself in the neck, is going to appear and rally the people against this usurper. This man who has usurped the throne from the legitimate line chosen by God. So this is what we call the first false Dmitrii. And when I say the first false Dmitrii, that should tell you something. There's going to be more. So the first false Dmitrii gathers a large force of basically rebels around him. He has got some support from the Polish as well, support from the Cossacks, support from the disenfranchised, the starving, basically just has a very powerful rebel force. He marches on Moscow, and just as he arrives, lo and behold, Boris Godunov dies. His son is still a child, and basically the town surrenders, and Dmitrii becomes the new Tsar. So false Dmitrii I is now the Tsar. Well, some of the boyars aren't happy about that. One of them in particular arranges eventually for Dmitrii to be killed, and he takes over. Okay, now it gets complicated. We're going to have another false Dmitrii rise up, and the wife of the first false Dmitrii is going to go to the second false Dmitrii and say, "Lo, my husband, who you already thought was dead once, and then you thought was killed again, is still alive. Third time's the charm. He's still alive." This is the second false Dmitrii. And the wife of the first is saying this is the same guy. So chaos ensues. And in the middle of all this, you're actually going to have more false Dmitries. It becomes a thing. Hey, I'm a Dmitrii too. I'm the son of Ivan the Terrible. There are three primary ones that are contenders. The first is most successful by far. The second, I believe, if I remember correctly, was betrayed by one of his right-hand men. And the rest really don't matter. The third was a little bit important, but not as much. The first two were the two big ones. That's the Dmitriad, though. During this period, all these people coming forward and saying, "I am Ivan's son, Dmitrii. I didn't actually die in childhood. I was smuggled away and raised in isolation." That's what happened. And now in 1610, seeing all these different rebel groups trying to take Moscow from the succession of czars, Fyodor Boris Godunov, the boyar, his name is slipping. It starts with a SH, but I've lost it. And then first false Dmitrii, and it just gets crazy. Poland is like, okay, I want in on the action. So King Sigismund of Poland sent a force of around 7,000 Polish soldiers to capture Moscow and install his son as interim czar. Now, Sigismund himself, King Sigismund of Poland, actually wants to be czar himself. He wants to rule both countries. But he sent his son in first to secure everything and pave the way for him. So for a brief period of time, around 1610, Poland is technically running the show in what we think of as Russia. They've captured Moscow. Polish prince is acting czar. King of Poland is angling to become the permanent czar.
Very worried.
This is, by the way, this is the time of troubles, as it's called.
Species. The Polish War was born on May the 16th. Polish-Russian War. Sid has solved.
It is probably Sigismund, I'm guessing. And son was probably his prince. His son, who is set up in charge of Moscow during this occupation.
Of the situation, son. 1618, Russian War. Thessaloniki, the war continues.
So the time of troubles is over by this time. It ends in 1613. The town of Nizhny Novgorod, Biznin and Pozharsky, a high-ranking butcher and a prince, build up a army of volunteers up in Nizhny Novgorod and the surrounding territory. And this basically volunteer army marches down and liberates Moscow. So they become the great heroes of Moscow. There's a huge statue to them in the Red Square to this day. I've seen it. It's really impressive. But that's the end of the time of troubles in 1613. Then they elect the leaders, get together, and they elect a new czar. New czar is Mikhail Romanov. That's the beginning of the Romanov dynasty. He was very young at the time. He was chosen because he hadn't gotten involved in all the bickering during the times of trouble. He had stayed kind of neutral, and he kind of been helping people during this time, which made him kind of popular, him and the whole Romanov family. On the Terrible, one of his very first wife, and by far the one he loved the most, he cared about the most, and who the people loved the most, was Romanovna, a member of the Romanov family. So they used that to tie Mikhail Romanov to on the Terrible's line to kind of make it more palatable for the people who felt that couldn't really match with God's design that this family should be ruling. Well, the Romanovs were related by marriage to Ivan, so that made it more palatable. So, and again, the Romanovs at this time were kind of popular compared to most of the other boyars. So Mikhail Romanov takes over. We're going to have a lot of conflict with Poland upcoming years, as well as Sweden. So expect see a lot of Polish war, a lot of Swedish war going forward. I'm not going to try to call them all out. That something jumps out at me.
Russia destroyed me in Poland and Poland.
Case in point.
1645, Michael told my husband.
1645 is when Mikhail Romanov died, so I'm fairly sure that's what we're talking about there.
This is part of a special report on its rights. Many leaders died in the revolution.
Okay.
Click to show images in zoom in. Thank you. 1649, Jimmy is a new law.
Okay, right after Mikhail Romanov dies, there is a major revamping of laws of the land, if you want to put it that way. So I'm fairly sure that's what we're talking about here. It was within just a few years of Mikhail's death, and he died in 45, so I'm sure that's what
1655, how to quickly respond to Christians? The Russian army was killed in the Philippines. Go to Sweden and offer them.
This is another Russian war with Poland. Same time, Sweden, we're talking about the Swedish deluge, where Sweden sweeps into Lithuania and takes a lot of land there. This is all going to be setting the stage for the Great Northern War, which is coming up.
Russia has decided to fight Poland.
Yeah,
they decided
that's what we're talking about.
Go on then. 1662, today the Moscow team attacks the Minister of Foreign Currency.
Okay. That's got to be the Copper Riot or the Copper Coin Riots. All the fighting between Ivan the Terrible's disastrous war in Livonia, which led the coffers dry, followed almost immediately by the time of troubles, where there was massive famine, massive unrest, invasions from both Poland and Sweden into Russia. Poland takes over for a while, and then subsequent fights with Sweden and Poland. The country's in dire straits, and 1662, they start minting extra copper coins, and they make them the same value as silver coins, if I remember correctly, which basically totally debases the currency and causes massive inflation. It's why you can't just print money when you're having money problems. It just devalues the coins and causes dramatic inflation. That's what happens here. And there are massive riots throughout Muscovite. I want to say like 10,000 or more rioters rose up. Quite a few were killed. It was a pretty bloody riot. It was called the Copper Coin Riot or the Copper Riot.
And died thousands of soldiers. 1670, click on the picture to increase the release of the Russian government.
1670, I have no idea what that means, but 1670 I do know is the year that Razin leads a popular uprising against Muscovite. So let's talk about that really quickly. Razin was actually Stepan Razin, but he's more popularly known as Razin. He's kind of a folk hero in Russian lore. Think of him kind of like a Robin Hood type figure. He is a Don Cossack located primarily down in the Black Sea region, Astrakhan and this kind of that area. He is a bit of a freebooter and pirate. He is raiding primarily Muslim shipping, but at some point, he decides to start heading north up the Volga to liberate Moscow. Not from the Tsar, but from the boyars. Things in Russia aren't good. It can't be the Tsar's fault. It's got to be the fault of those people who are those corrupt boyars, those corrupt nobles that are under him, and giving him bad advice and not following his orders correctly and being wicked and corrupt. This is a common thing in Russian history. You'll often, there's even a saying, it's, the Tsar is good, the boyars are bad. I can't remember the exact wording. That's basically what it means. The Tsar is never at fault. If something is wrong, it's the boyars, and if you can just address the Tsar directly with your problems, he'll fix it all. That's one of the things that leads to the 1905 revolution, where you have the priest approaching Nicholas and petitioning for redress. That's why he's doing it. It's the same basic concept. Only in the case of 1905, it's a peaceful protest. In the case of 1670, it's not. Razin is heading north, and he is gathering a huge following of people who basically intend to march into Moscow, beat up the boyars, and tell the Tsar, there, we solved your problem for you, now help your people. It doesn't go well. He had to build up a lot of momentum. It's one of the biggest, what you would call peasant rebellion. There's an argument over whether it really was or not, but that's what it typically characterized as. One of the biggest ones of this period, or even in their history. There's bigger ones, the Bolotnikov and a couple of others. Razin one becomes kind of famous and build up this legendary status. So you'll hear about it a lot. I learned about it first because before I got into Russian history, I was into Russian music. I was learning to play the balalaika. And it's a very popular folk song, the song of Razin, Volga, Volga, Mat Rodnaya, Volga, Volga, Mother of Rivers, or Mother of Waters. That was the very first song I learned to play. And when I was learning it, I decided to take a look at the history. I took kind of a deep dive. That was a good 20 years ago, so I don't know how much of it I really remember detailed, but I remember it was 1670.
1682. The third smell adds the wealth. I
No
had
clue.
a mother without a child.
No idea. Although 1682 is when Peter the Great first ascends to the throne, too young, so his mother, Talia, I believe, is his regent, so maybe that's what we're talking about there. It doesn't last long because there's a lot of debate over who should be Tsar. Peter has a brother, argument that maybe the brother should be Tsar. Ultimately, they make both of them co-Tsars, with his brother being the senior Tsar and Peter being co-Tsar. And because they're both too young, after the mother dies, their sister, half-sister of Peter, Sophia, becomes the regent. And she kind of takes over. She's actually a pretty good leader. She really is. But eventually she gets a little too ambitious, tried to get herself named Tsar in place of her brothers. Peter puts a stop to that. And he ended up ascending to the throne by himself.
1700, North War, Russian War in Sweden.
Great Northern War, Peter the Great and a few allies versus Sweden. Sweden is going to come out kicking and swinging, and they're going to win a lot of the first battles. We did an entire series by Kings and Generals on the Great Northern War. So if you want to know more about that, check that out. That way I don't have to waste time here repeating it all, because my brain's starting to hurt already. Way too many Vasilis and Yuris.
Learned death of the Orthodox Church. 1711, in Turkey, the peace was made with good food.
Okay, so before Great Northern War, Peter is at war with Turkey. Tells his allies he's not going to enter that war until he finishes his war with Turkey. He does peace out with them eventually. And then later, he's going to end up going to war with Turkey again after Charles XII of Sweden, their enemy in this fight, ends up fleeing, or I don't want to say, well, kind of fleeing, but basically wintering and camping out in Ottoman territory, Turkish territory. Russia gets a little diplomatic entanglements, and Russia end up getting into a little bit of a skirmish in Turkey, and again, they peace out. So that's kind of what we're talking about here.
In 1713, St. Petersburg, the capital of Russia,
So, Great Northern War, Peter the Great recaptures land along the Baltic that had been lost to Sweden previously. He built the city of St. Petersburg. That's what we're talking about there.
Africa, the state of liver was established.
No clue.
1715, Marker invited his son to support his correction and rejected the right of the bone.
Bone, like I said before, I think is throne because, again, it fits. So this is Peter the Great, son, Vasily again? So many Vasilis. I almost think it was, but I could be wrong. My brain is fried. But Peter the Great has a son who is next in line to the throne. Peter the Great is a great reformer. His son does not like that. Peter the Great approaches his son and basically lays down the law. You will carry forward with my reforms, or you will renounce your right to the throne. His son doesn't agree and renounces his right to the throne and leaves town. Now, he immediately goes to some of the enemies of Russia and plots to have Peter killed and take over. Peter finds out. Peter invites his son back with a promise of a pardon until it comes out that, in fact, his son was actually plotting to kill him. And then Peter officially and permanently revokes his right to the throne and declares that the Tsar may choose whoever he pleases to be his successor. Doesn't have to be tied to bloodline anymore. I'm pretty sure that's what we're talking about
1717, the southern part of Kazan is a steering wheel. I was the official conversion of Peter Strand. 1719, air dampness. Liquid destroys all the steering wheel, and free space is divided into other sites. Okay,
that free space divided into other sites, there were some major land reforms during this period where they were redefining administrative districts and how things are measured, how things are divided up to increase the efficiency of the government and to make things more uniform and understandable across this growing nation. So I'm pretty sure that's what we're talking about. Land reforms, that kind of thing.
1721, I'm not a member of this church, and. The end.
Okay, 1721 is the end of the Great Northern War. Sure, that's what that is. That one right before it might possibly be referring to the have a patriarch in Moscow who is the leader of the Orthodox Church, Russian Orthodox Church. He dies. Peter refuses to replace him. And then later he's going to set up what's called the Holy Synod, which is a group of, I think, like 10 or 12 men that are going to run the Orthodox Church in place of a patriarch. I think that's what that previous one was talking about. The beginning of the Holy Synod.
Of the war in Nigeria.
And this is the
Sweden.
end of the Great Northern War.
Read John 5:1. What? 1725. Peter's death is a problem.
Yeah, it is, because after he changed the law to where he could declare his successor, failed to do so, and he'd already disinherited his obvious heir, his son. So who's it going to go to? Well, he had named his wife Empress, So, all
Contact
hail
us.
Empress Catherine I.
1727, Catherine, Peter II, wants to be the...
Peter II is the grandson of Peter. He should have been Tsar, but there is a big debate about it, and they decide that since Peter had declared his wife Catherine as Empress, that meant that he was basically choosing her as his successor. So she put in power instead of Peter II. So all hail Catherine the First. Not Catherine the Great, she's coming, but Catherine the First. This is going to be a period of a lot of very weak stars and several of the first real women leaders. There'd been regents before, and Sophia, for example, kind of was a female ruler. And further back in Russian history, there's people like Olga and Sophia who had inordinate power as well. But this period with Catherine and Elizabeth and then Catherine again is going to be kind of the era of the strong, well, this is the era of the female leader, culminating in a very strong and well-known one, Catherine the Great.
The power of Emperor Volkova.
Oh,
Small
dear.
groups of lad injustice guards. Peter says, what will we consider in this article? 1743, Russian War. At the end of the market, the Russian king of Sweden and his Russian heritage took the largest photograph. Okay,
so the Russian king of Sweden and his Russian heritage. This is King Adolf Frederick, I think. I'm sure about the Frederick. I think it's Adolf. King Adolf Frederick of Sweden. He's not actually Swedish, but he's also not Russian. He's actually Prussian, but he is the uncle of Catherine the Great, who is also Prussian. So he is related to the ruling dynasty of Russia, and he is sometimes called a Russian king. He was put in and thrown by Russia. So that's probably, I'm sure that's what they're talking about. King Adolf Frederick.
Of Russia. 1767, there are 4 Polish senators that have violated the law. The Russian conference, where Nicholas Tarlin's policy was arrested in Russia during pregnancy.
Definitely not ringing a bell. I'm pretty sure I don't remember Nicholas was pregnant.
1772, Poland went between Malaysia, Austria, and Russia.
First partitioning of Poland. And I'm pretty sure Malaysia... Well, why not, Malaysia? Get in on it. Everybody else wants to partition Poland. Why not you? It should be Prussia, I think. Austria and Russia.
1783, Russian Empire. The fact that Georgia has identified the silver cranberry.
Not sure. Maybe it has something to do with something down in the Caucasus where Georgia is, but I don't know for sure.
1788.
We are going to start seeing a lot more of that coming into play, so maybe.
Russia went war in Russia and Russia. Russian war has toys and toys. Visit the Russian Sea, which entered Swedish airlines near Hogwarts, Finland.
Yes. The Russian Harry Potter. We have another war with Sweden, and there's some fighting at, I think it's Hogland? It's Hog something. I think it's Hogland, Finland. That's probably what we're talking about here, the Battle of Hogland.
Great slave. Polish society is asked to return the country.
Yeah, Poland's in trouble. This has got all these partitioning going on.
1795, the Login War. The third part of Poland was distributed elsewhere in Poland.
That's a third partition of Poland.
Electronic phone rings in Italian. 1796, Catherine began to take Russia's military action in Kharkov. Catherine was a stroke.
Okay, so if these are both the same year, then that's got to be her, she sent some forces into Persia. I think it's called the Persian Expedition. It wasn't a war per se, it was more of an expedition. It was a precision strike. But she died the same year that happened. She had a stroke in the bathtub. The whole horse thing is a legend. It didn't happen.
Catherine's died.
I think she was in a bathtub anyway. I know she had a stroke.
1804, How to make your power? 1807, the French army suffers from French defeat.
Napoleonic Wars are going to be a lot of fight with the French. So this is one of the coalitions. I think that this time would be, what, the third, I think?
Killing 20,000 people. Alexander and Moldova.
We haven't gotten that far in my Napoleon series, and I'm not great with Napoleonic stuff yet. We're working on that. So, yeah, Tsar Alexander.
Alexander asked Sweden to close the Baltic Sea from the British Sea.
Not sure unless that's referring to the continental system, where Napoleon basically told the continent not to trade with Britain, and Russia kind of decides to ignore that a little later on and starts trading behind Napoleon's back, which is not something you want to do once Napoleon finds out.
1808, the war ended in World War II when Russian soldiers moved to the Swedish border and were arrested.
No idea.
1810, the first military price was paid to the Catholic Church. Alexander ordered the government to establish the house.
I have no idea.
The authorities of Russia announced 2 Solomon's bones.
Again, bones is thrown, I'm sure of it, because Solomon II. This is when Russia goes down south into what's now Georgia. There was a country there, like Emeritus, something like that, in what's now Georgia. Kingdom called Emeritus or something close to that. And the king there was Solomon II. Russia basically knocks that kingdom off the map. And that's the end of rulership of King Solomon II. I think that's what this is. It's end of King Solomon II's throne.
Damn. 2 of them? 1812, the Russian War was expelled from Serbia.
Okay.
Russia attacked France, 1812.
The French invasion of Russia, Napoleon.
A French soldier finally forced power. 1813, according to the Kyrgyz Republic of Russia, Russia became a colourful region. 1825,
no idea.
Alexander died on the street. The Ops got him. 1854, war. England and France declared war on the Russian Federation.
Is this one of the wars? Crime? Yeah, this is one of the wars down in the Crimean region. Not the Crimean War yet, I don't think. I genuinely don't remember when that was now.
Crime, Bulgaria, and
maybe
1860.
But there's several conflicts down there that involve France especially. Beijing deal took China from China to Russia. This is the Russian expansion in Siberia. It's been going on since Ivan the Terrible. Yeah, Stroganov family sends a Cossack, and I can't remember his name. I should know it. It's like Yurtok or something like that. To explore Siberia. He gets a long way into it. Russia starts expanding further and further in that way. They do annex some land from China right around there.
Beijing deal took China from China to Russia. 1865, the Russian army was conquered by mountains.
No idea.
And then 1867, Central Asia is a child. Russia is ready to sell in the United States.
That's the sale of Alaska, 1867.
1870, teachers teach schoolgirls. True?
Okay, that is there's a change in the legislation or the rules that allow girls and women to have higher education than they had before. I'm not talking about necessarily college education, but like vocational education, technical trade education. Something up in that level was finally opened up to women.
1873, entry. President of Russia. Death is under arrest.
Not sure.
1879, countries and freedoms are divided into black and popular groups.
What year is this?
Countries and freedoms are divided.
79. This is the collapse of the terrorist group, and I can't think of the actual name, but it was something like Liberty and Freedom. So I think that's what we're talking about here. There was a terrorist organization, a secret society, if you will, that was agitating against the Russian government. Like I said, it had a name like Liberty and Freedom, something similar to that. Divide into two parts. One is the People's Will, the other is Black something. I can't remember what the other half of Black something. And People's Will. People's Will is much better known. People's Will are going to be responsible for the assassination of Tsar Alexander II, the Great Liberator, as well as the attempted assassination of Tsar Alexander III. One of the members of the People's Will involved in that attempt on Alexander III is the brother of Vladimir Lenin. He will be captured. He will be executed for his part in that. I'm not 90% sure that's what we're talking about here.
Divided into black and popular groups.
Got
1880, destroy special village power. 1882, Alexander III visited the factory to find women and children.
Alexander III was extremely conservative. His father was extremely progressive. Alexander III is the exact opposite. He did make personal visits to factories to inspect them, make sure that they were up to traditional Russian standards, not to reformed standards. So I'm fairly sure that's what they're talking about.
Cell phone rings.
Not sure
Can
about
you take
that
it
part.
outside? He built an official language in Finland in the late 1930s. 1914,
Not sure.
Bosnia detained the hopes of the Russian army.
Assassination of Franz Ferdinand by a Bosnian national, Gabriel. That's got to be what that is.
In Bosnia, Austria.
Okay.
World War II in
Austria.
Austria has the right to participate in research in July. It's always World War II.
Okay.
The Second Australian War in Serbia. Russia gathered security forces in Serbia during World War II.
So this is keep saying World War II. This is the outbreak of World War I.
1915, Eastern German army began to attack.
Yeah, that's the German army is turning to the Eastern Front. They try to knock France out of the war first. Russia mobilizes a lot faster than they expected, so they're forced to turn some of their troops to deal with Russia.
Suggestion: Willis, a German soldier in prison. 1916, on November the 5th, the German government became independent king of Poland. His Majesty Gregory Raspu Prince Felix is a great god of Ostov.
That Grigory Rasputin, obviously, this is the year that he is murdered. I've been outside of the place where he was murdered. We actually went by it in a canal, in a boat. I was in St. Petersburg, and we stayed on the island. The bridge to that island is where his body was dumped. So I've been to that spot as well.
1917. This post is part of our special coverage. In February, the revolution. A group of soldiers were sent to Paterm.
Okay, I see a problem. They're still in 1916. I told you earlier, sometimes these StarvHarv timelines bleed over. I think when the translations come through, they kind of blurry the date sometimes. Could be 1917, but February Revolution, what this is.
We want to contact and speak with them like National Women's Day, and fighters will revolutionize because women and fighters don't want to kill them.
So, National Women's Day in Russia, women factory workers go out and protest. Later, they're joined by the men factory workers. And after that, you start getting things like the military getting involved as well. This is the beginning of the February Revolution. This is going to create a provisional government. Fortunately, that one's not going to last long. It can be overthrown by the Bolsheviks in October.
The government has automatically created an incident in Estonia. Great job. Vimmer was born in Russia and created his presidency. Oriental and Serbian Soviet governments called Rumas. The cause.
So what we're getting into here, this is still 16, but it's really 17. We're setting everything up for the Soviet Union. So we've got some of these states that are going to become, in some cases like Ukraine, following the end of World War I. So we're just setting the stage for the Soviet Union. This is the Russian Revolution, and it's building up all the components for states that are going to join one way or the other the Soviet Union.
of the Independence of Ukraine. In July, Frost Sits on the Road. This publication was published in Lenovo.
Got it.
The government is equipped with
No idea.
thousands of guards. During pressure, the gel reader is free. In January, he was arrested by Shevchenko.
Okay.
Revolution in October.
October Revolution, that's when the Bolsheviks take over.
German castle was opened in Bolivian court.
No idea.
Second All-Russian Parliament issues peace order to comply with the laws of GGC in Russia during the Second World War. Free parliament in Istanbul, there's one if you want one.
No
Ukraine
idea.
built the Soviet Republic of Kwoko and the Russian Civil War.
Okay.
1918, the Red Army won. Red Army in Moscow and St. Petersburg. Red Army returned to the German Army, Soviet Union. In
Not really sure what that was because the Red Army, well, it didn't win anywhere outside of Russia, really. I mean, we're getting into the Civil War. The Red Army's not going to win that for quite a while yet.
Britain, the Russian Civil War welcomes 255 people.
Not
A
sure.
second edition of the Republic of Armenia was established.
Okay. Again, I think we're still setting up conditions necessary for some of these other places to, one way or the other, join the Soviet Union, either willingly or by force or something in rigged election.
The first one wasn't good enough. Adel Art won the Red Art and sold the Red Art. When it came, 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 when it came. The Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine approved that the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine approved
I approve that I approve of this message.
that the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine and Science of Ukraine. The historians are not proud of some work.
I agree.
Yeah, this one. There was like one civil war and everything's broken down into chaos. It's mental.
Yeah.
He returned with thousands of power.
Yes, I am familiar with he lore with StarvHarv, by the way. I know all about that. But we can add another thing to the list. He returned with thousands of power to Estonia.
But in Estonia, the Russian army surpassed Estonia. Leon Bell, Lenin friend,
That's got to be Trotsky. Founded a media party in Hungary? Not sure.
founded a media party in Hungary. Please try the International Humanitarian War in Estonia. 1919, Soviet Union War. The Polish army is a company in Poland. It's like a...
The Russian invasion of Poland during the... gotta be. I didn't realize it that early, but maybe it is.
ANCAP paradise. The Indonesia Soviet Union. The Red Army has begun. The teams of Askoya have conquered the Earth and destroyed the Soviet Union.
Okay.
There are 40,000 army and commander. Romanian army
No idea on that either.
was born in Austria. 1920, Russia has issued all demands in Estonia and signed a deal with Jordan. Good way to do war. Good way
Sign
to
a
do
deal.
war.
It's a good way to do it.
1921, project founded by the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses.
No idea. 1921 is the start of a major famine. That's all I can tell you about this.
For a week after the war, government officials demolished the theft. The
Not
Red
sure.
Team was rejected by Mongolia. My health began to improve in Finland
Okay.
and in the army.
All
In
right.
1922, Russian ER was dedicated to the meaning of the church, which symbolized the founder of malaria.
I'm lost.
Georgia, Armenia, and Ireland became Soviet and socialist. A few months
Wait a minute. Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, not Ireland. I always knew those Irish were commies. What am I saying? I've got a lot of Irish ancestry. Yep. Okay. It's when Georgia and Armenia came in, it was with Azerbaijan.
Armenia and Ireland became Soviet and socialist. A few months
I like the new flag.
later, I was invited to serve
Celtic harp fits perfectly as well with the orange and green.
as a traveling overseer.
Got it.
Death in Turkey. To build the Soviet Union, he agreed to vote for Russia. Oh, this is why he was the youngest son of the Soviet Revolution. This is some background. 1923, Russia officially finished.
Uh-oh.
The Roman party is not a Christian, recorded in 46 years. 19...
Is that the adoption of the modern calendar? It's Russia had still been on the old calendar system. The rest of the world had moved on. But I'm not sure when they changed to synchronize with the rest of the world. It was after the revolution, I know that.
1924, name of Latin women. 1936, Moscow recommendation, death penalty.
Okay, that's the Moscow show trials and the Great Purge. Stalin's in charge now.
Create a Soviet Union. 1937, death. Video title, NKVD runs a new justice system.
Okay.
The creation of relatives in the workplace. 1939, the Soviet forces attacked Casablanca.
Got it.
People's Guam was founded.
No idea.
It's Communist Guam. 1940, the Soviet Union reached the Republic of Finland and declared that the government allowed peace.
We're getting into the Winter War.
Just wanted to be friends. Winter War in Finland, peace was preserved in Moscow. This is the time of the Soviet Union. Blah,
all right.
blah, blah. Irish language office. Okay, that was a bit of Irish there. In the past, there were many areas. Bukbong.
Okay.
Bukbong. The Soviet Union adopted the Soviet Union of Lebanon. USR was established in the United States.
I have no idea what that would be in 1940. Really don't know. Soviet Union is currently at peace. Germany, Axis powers. They will be until Barbarossa in 41. I'm not sure.
The Soviet Union began Leslie, who lived in the Soviet Union.
Okay.
This is the time for Soviet Union. They've like taken over Lebanon and like parts of the US now. 1941, the Japanese Soviet Union has signed a Soviet nuclear deal.
Definitely not nuclear, but 1941, Japan and the Soviet Union signed a neutrality pact saying that with all the war going on, they'll leave each other alone. And that's going to hold until fall of Germany, at which point Stalin had promised that if the Allies, Soviet Union, bring down Germany, as soon as Germany is defeated, the Soviet Union will help them defeat Japan. So, yeah, that's got to be what that is. Yeah, neutrality agreement.
3 soldiers joined the Soviet Union. Wow, great deal there.
That makes it 20 million and 3. Got it.
Operation Barossa.
Barbarossa.
A group of Germany and Romanian. Iran, England, Soviet weapons. Iran attack.
Okay. I'm not sure what Iran is doing there. England and the Allies have been shipping weapons to the Soviet Union and food and supplies. Maybe that's what we're talking about, but I'm just going out on a limb here. I do 1941. I do know that there's a major switch with the Allies bringing Russia into the fold, well, the Soviet Union into the alliance against the Axis. And a big part of that at this stage is just supply, getting food, getting weapons, munitions, all of that. Soviet Union.
The last part of the German army was cut. Source, Germany.
Okay.
Gas type. Soviet resistance is 60 miles from Moscow. The fight starts in Germany. Soviet military shirts began to oppose the German army. It's about time. The German army in Scotland is closed.
No idea.
1944. The Red Army controls Poland. Red Army defeats Brain.
Got it.
After the war, the car in Moscow was difficult. 1945. The Soviet Union began the war.
That's got to be the Soviet advance into Germany and Berlin.
Berlin War.
Yeah.
Berlin Army. They loved the Soviet
45
Army.
so it's got to be.
They loved them.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union was founded in Iran. In Mongolia, Soviet BCE.
Okay.
1946. Soviet Union from Iran. The British joined Iran.
Oh, this is the Soviet and British occupation of Iran. UN wants them out. Britain leaves. Soviet Union tries to stay. One of the few instances where the United Nations push their foot down and Stalin kind of mopingly agrees to pull out. Gotta be what we're talking about here.
The Soviet Union violated this agreement and life.
Okay.
The Iranian crisis. The Soviet Union was built from Iran. Just
Okay,
in case
again?
you needed to know again.
Yes.
1948, Berlin. The Soviet Union closed the trains.
Blockade.
The American Korea must become the machine.
Berlin airdrop.
West Berlin.
If you're not familiar with that, and I'm sure most of you are, after the war, Germany is divided up among the Allies into areas that they are controlling. Berlin is divided. It's in territory that's given to the Soviet Union, but it is exempt from that. Instead, it is divided between the Allies and the Soviet city itself. Well, the Soviet Union didn't like the influence of those capitalist pigs, so they decided to use the fact that Berlin was completely surrounded by Soviet territory to blockade Berlin and prevent the rest of the Allies from buying Berlin and supporting Berliners. So the Allies, primarily United States and Britain, in a series of airdrops into Berlin that are just a phenomenal feat of logistics, flying skill. The amount of food and supplies, heating supplies especially, they get in fuel. They get into Berlin during the airdrops is just mind-boggling. If you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend it. Pretty amazing.
1949, the Soviet bomb connects to the design of
Soviet test of their first atomic weapons.
bombs. 1950, Soviet Mike 15 is a 4-star hotel located about 15 minutes walk.
No idea.
1953, one of the best players in this game. Among the competitors in the town of Lely Bunini,
No idea.
Nikita Grutiza and George Matava were shocked.
Nikita's got to be Khrushchev. No idea what Lily Bunini is, but I like that he put it in Cyrillic.
Sutulin's dead. First time. The army is in Korea. Khrushchev took the head of the
Khrushchev
Central
again,
Committee.
Korean War.
1954. The arrival of Kenji.
All
I
right.
have my teeth in camp. German troops attack the camp over.
By the way, if any of you guys know any of these that I'm missing, feel free to toss it in the comment. My brain is now totally fried, and a lot of these are just zooming past me because this is one of my weaker areas in Russia. I'm not that strong in the Soviet era other than the broad stroke.
For the tank. 1956. Hungarian Revolution in 1956. On an urgent basis, the Federal Committee issued an order to raise the band. This post is part of our special coverage of Hungarian Revolution 2011.
Okay.
13,500 deaths in the next war. 1958. The Prime Minister of the Soviet Union was named Shusov.
Okay.
1962. In the Cuban crisis, President Kennedy has a photo of YouTube, one of the most popular areas of Cuba.
Not YouTube, U2. That is a U2 spy plane captures photographs of missiles being deployed in Cuba, nuclear missiles. This is going to launch the Cuban Missile.
Soren recommended you return to the United States to support the Cuban army.
All right.
Crisis in Cuba magazine. It is
Cuban
noted
Missile
that
Crisis.
the destruction of Soviet Cuba was eliminated.
All right.
1967.
I was born.
Chinese war class. The Chinese government says the Soviet Union will not be protected during the building.
Okay, this is the fallout between the Soviet Union and China. They kind of have a falling out. They sever ties for a while. They will get back together, speaking terms, eventually, but they do sever their ties during the period, so that's got to be what this is.
The Soviet Union.
I mean, I was alive at the time, but I was just born, so my memory on all this is fuzzy. No idea.
Destroyed Israeli, Soviet Union, and Arab relations.
This is the Cold War, so this could be referring to any one of the millions of proxy wars that are going on, where the Soviet Union and or the United States are meddling in politics around the world.
1969, Soviet dispute ended. Soviet guards defend the Chinese army in Geneva. What are they doing there? 1978, the team loyal of FIFA attacks and kills Afghan Mohammed Khan. 1979, Soviet-Afghanistan War.
Yeah, so we're getting into Afghanistan now.
Operation Guam 333, including Soviet power, military architecture, media, President's Palace, and Prime Ministers are reliable. 1980, in the United States, Moscow is reported to be planning an attack on Afghanistan. Didn't they just attack? 1982, a man who died after a stroke. He died of a heart attack.
Okay, can't remember the name of the guy who died from a stroke. It was a famous or prominent Soviet leader. Never the leader, but he was up there. Started with an SH, I think, but I'm sure of, or something like that. I'm just drawing a blank. I should know it, but I don't. But he died of a stroke in the same year Brezhnev died of a heart attack. That's the only thing that tipped me off, is I know they died the same year. One of a stroke, one of a heart attack.
1983.
I'm pretty sure the heart attack was Brezhnev.
South Korea talks about Soviet Union. That's all that happened. Antonio's death. Secret.
Okay. So secret that I've never heard of it.
Secret.
Who is Antonio and why did he have to die?
Secret mystery of the secrets of the secret of the secret.
Ooh.
Of the secret.
Of a long time.
The world's revolution is the result of this.
So we're talking about the Illuminati. It's got to be. The earthquake was destroyed on the northern side of Ireland?
Earthquake was destroyed on the northern side of Ireland.
No idea.
Ireland is just part of the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
1989.
I'm right there with you.
And the last Soviet army left the country. The Romanian Revolution in 1989.
Okay. We're about to set the stage for the collapse of the Soviet Union. So we're getting into the Gorbachev era, Glasnost and all of that. He's putting in major reforms. He's loosening the reins a bit. He's allowing a more autonomy in the satellite states, especially. That's going to lead in some of them choosing to lead the Soviet Union. Going to allow Russia to elect their own president. That's going to seal the deal. That's all coming up in this year, in the next couple.
Plus, Klutsu Romanian Dictionary and his wife, Olsen, enjoys rural and right. 1990, Revolution. Soviet elections have led to the most popular
Yeah, this is the elections where some of these satellite states are choosing to leave Soviet Union. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about there. Could also be talking about the election of Yeltsin as president of Russia. Not sure.
The most popular elections. 1991, January. The Russian army has built an important structure in the Surgeon.
Okay.
See the future of the Soviet Union.
What future? It's done. Yeah, the government has resigned. So Yeltsin wants to become president of the of Russia. Gets together with Ukraine, the other states of the Soviet Union, and they all agree to solve it. There's not a thing Gorbachev can do about it.
Government has resigned. Ukrainians freedom.
Yep.
Background color green.
All right.
India has its own country. The Soviet Union received Romania.
Okay.
Conflicts between the Soviet Union and the Arabs of Israel. Soviet Union became with a full involvement with Israel. The Soviet Union approved the Soviet Union.
Okay.
This is fine. 1992, Advantages of God. Stay clear. The price is free. 1994, the First Chechnya War.
Okay, so yeah, we're getting into the wars in Chechnya. There's going to be at least 2 of them.
The Republic of Chechnya decided that the government...
There's going to be a lot of terrorism coming out of this as well.
...was followed by Tao. The War of the Father. Russian soldier came into Chechnya.
Okay.
You've got... He's bloody come into
Hey,
Chechnya.
that's not what they meant.
1996, Russian President Gandhi. Chechen First War.
Yeah.
1999, Vladimir Putin. Prime Minister of Russia. Chechen War
Vladimir
2.
Putin.
Attack against Chechnya. 2000.
Chechnya strikes back.
Russia wants to destroy the sea.
K-141. That's the submarine. Blew up.
Why not? 2004. Czech Republic is not real in Czech Republic. Putin was built at the beginning of the change of the governor. 2008. South Asia War. George cancels the separation of the southern state and the integrity of Ostia. Do you know?
No idea.
2009. He's ready to take over. 2010. Russian nuclear weapons and the reduction of the United States.
Okay. That's the, what was it? The SMART agreement, wasn't it? Where they agreed to reduce the stockpile of nuclear weapons. How many times you need to be able to destroy the entire world before enough's enough?
14. Winter Olympics. Crime Act in the Russian Federation. On the Russian Federation, Putin and Criminal signed
Crime Act. Is this the invasion of Crimea?
A deal to join Russia. Korean removed. It says like patch notes. New Minecraft. 2015. Russian military intervention in the Syrian civil war. China army bomb. 2022. Ukraine Carson. That's it.
Invasion of Ukraine.
That's all they wrote. That's it. That's all.
All right. I guess we're done. So as I expected, I did fairly well, I think, in the first half. But once we started getting past, say, the end of the time of troubles, really started going downhill. I'll get all the rest of it eventually. Got a ways to go. I heavily focus on the 17th century and before stuff. I probably always will, but I'm trying to move forward a little. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If any of these jumped out at you that you knew the answer to that I missed, feel free to toss them in the comments. I'd like to know what some of these were. Some of them were vague. Some of them rang a bell, but not my knowledge in the latter period just not strong enough to be able to say, oh, that's it. Whereas I could do that with some of it in the earlier period. Because I have a much better feel for it, and I've read a lot more on that. So, anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you guys had some fun with that. I found it a challenge. My brain fried after the Muscovite Civil War, because that always fries my brain. I hope I got it halfway right with all those Yuris and Vasilis and Anyway, bye-bye for now. See ya.